Thanks everybody for being here today. Look, we've got a very, very important election, not just on Tuesday, but in November. And first I'm asking, that you get out and support what I believe is what you're looking for to be an independent conservative who focuses on not what Washington wants, but what people here in New Hampshire want. And look, when our party leadership in Washington is going in the wrong direction, I am strong enough to stand up and say no. For example, this year I voted against what I thought was a bloated budget, $50 billion in additional spending. It paid for Planned Parenthood. It paid for the illegal DAPA and DACA immigration actions by the President of the United States. I didn't think that was right, and I stood up against our own party and said no. And then I stood up a few months later when we had a change in speaker from Mr. Boehner to my friend, my personal friend Paul Ryan, and he wanted me to vote for the omnibus, $1.1 trillion in spending. And I said to him very point blankly, I said, no, I can't do this. This is not in the best interest of New Hampshire or our country. And typically what happens in that situation is you're cast aside and you have to make amends with your leadership. Well, I'll tell you what did happen. Instead of that, the opposite happened. They asked me then to get on the budget committee again and try to help solve the challenges that I saw in the budgeting process. So I said, under those circumstances, I would love to get back on the budget committee and use my business experience, my time as mayor of Manchester, where I balanced budgets, cut taxes, cut spending, grew the economy, things that actually work for upward mobility for the state's largest city. I went to work and we found $60 billion in cuts, number one. Number two, we're eliminating the Medicaid expansion money because it's not in the long-term best interest of the nation or the state to be reliant on the federal government, number one. Number two, we can't pay for it. And third, we're requiring a balanced budget amendment because Washington, D.C. needs to learn how to balance its budget. So that's just in the first couple of months. And now I've worked with the chairman to start an overhaul of the 1974 Budget Act so we can actually complete a budget process in a timely fashion the way we have to do it in our homes, in our businesses, in our communities, and here in the state of New Hampshire. So I'm excited about this opportunity to bring what I think is a conservative approach and doing the right thing, listening to people here, not in Washington, D.C. I voted against the debt ceiling increase. I voted against the Puerto Rico bailout. Again, I was always in the minority in my own party. But it's because I want to put the interests of New Hampshire first, and as I've continued to talk to people in New Hampshire, this is what people have asked me to do. On the flip side, I'm chairman of the Congressional Task Force to combat heroin and opioid use. We have 80 members on that task force, and over the last year, we spearheaded 18 different bills. We got them all passed bipartisanly, Republican legislation. Identified how to pay for it without increasing the debt or deficit, and got this president to sign it into law a month ago because, unfortunately, New Hampshire, as most of us know, went from 47th per capita in drug-related deaths to 3rd per capita in about a year. 439 people died last year, and unfortunately, we're on track to either meet or exceed that number this year. This is a crisis. This is an epidemic. But we're actually getting things done. And I think that's what people in our state want out of their representative. I think most of you know I don't live in Washington. I go down there for committee hearings and votes, and then I come back every single weekend to spend time with my family and you. And I'll continue to do that because New Hampshire is our home. The kids love going to their schools in Manchester. We still call Manchester home. And we love our state. We love the people in our state. But on Tuesday, I need you to come out and help me and send a strong message that that's the kind of leadership we want in the state of New Hampshire and in Washington, D.C. And then after we get through Tuesday, we've got 7 weeks. We've got 7 weeks to remind people what a disaster Carol Shea Porter was when she was in office. Whether it's veterans issues, whether it's Obamacare, whether it's tax hikes, she does not have the best interest at heart for the state of New Hampshire. And let me say one final thing. I endorsed Donald Trump back in May. I think it's important for people to know that, and I want to explain why. I know that maybe some of you did not have Donald Trump as your first choice during this presidential process. But it was pretty clear in May that he was the presumptive nominee of our party. And I want to be clear that we need to be a team. This is incredibly important. It's about you and your kids and your grandkids. And our kids are 13 and 11. This is the first time that the next generation doesn't think they're going to have a better opportunity than the current one. And that's because of President Obama and people like Secretary Clinton and their policies. She will continue, if not make worse, the policies of this president. Think about that. 19 trillion in debt. The U6 unemployment number is at about 10%. The number of people who are no longer in the workforce is at an all-time high. It's amazing what's happening to our nation, to the fabric of our country. So we have a choice between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. So I wanted to make it very clear that we need to be team players as we go forward, not just as a Republican Party, but to make sure we talk to undeclared voters and disaffected Democrats who want something better, who believe that they deserve and their families deserve a better, brighter opportunity. So we've got about 8 weeks between now and November. The first choice Donald Trump had to make after he became the presumptive nominee was his vice presidential candidate. I know Mike Pence. I served with Mike Pence. He's an honorable, distinguished man. He's got great experience both at the national and at the executive level. And if you haven't had a chance to meet him yet in New Hampshire when he comes back, I would encourage you to do so. Because not only is he a man of conviction, but he's a true leader. And if Donald Trump continues to make decisions like that, I think he'll have a fantastic cabinet that will lead our country to greater opportunity and upward mobility and economic freedom, the things that we all want as Americans, not just as Republicans. So let's do what we have to do on Tuesday. I'm asking you all to come out, help us have a strong showing. Everything looks fantastic. We don't ever want to leave any stone unturned. But come Wednesday, you know what's going to happen. When the Republican nominees are set, the Democratic Party is going to start TV ads beating all of us up, just like they did 2 years ago. So we've got to be on offense immediately as a party for our state and our nation. And I thank each and every one of you for coming out, for being engaged in our party and our process. It's a wonderful thing. I love being your representative. I'm happy to take those bullets to be your representative because it matters. It's about heart and passion and conviction, the things that are right, and that's what you get in my campus. So I look forward to a strong day on Tuesday, and let's get them into that.
GOP TV.